Jim Duquette joining us right now, a man of many talents on many networks. You can follow him at Jim Duquette GM, as I mentioned, Sirius, SNY, etc. So, Duke, great to see you, dude. It's
What's
been a
up,
minute.
guys?
Yeah,
Yeah,
miss you,
good
man.
to be on. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's just bring this one right into the fold. If you're a general manager and you desperately need a closer, and you're one of those teams that's like just looking for some icing on top of the cake and a guaranteed ninth inning save and haters on the market, do you look into that eighth inning combo? We were having it just now with Corbin Burns and how, he had bad arbitration with Milwaukee and then wanted to be just more of a consistent one inning, ninth inning guy, and has expressed that he would expand that at times when he's with a team that's going to take care of him. So I personally don't give a shit. I think I'll take a Josh Hader, but what do you think, and what would front offices say?
Well, I think Josh Hader has been one of the best closers in the game over his career that we've seen, and it's hard to be really good and really consistent as we've seen. That's why you appreciate what Edwin Diaz has done. The stretch that Liam Hendricks did. Um, as he became a full time closer, like those guys are hard to get, and he deserves to be asking for the type of money that he's asking for. I don't know if he's going to get it. But I think that with some of these teams, they have really diminished that ninth inning or the importance of the ninth inning. I can tell you this: I've been in the postseason, Scotty. We've been together, probably over a dozen years in the postseason. And man, when you're trying to close out the game, at the end of the year, in important game, let's say save situations, or in the postseason, if you don't have one of those guys, I think it's a real big disadvantage. Now, there are a lot of debates with other executives on that role, but not for me. Hader's a guy you have to have, and even if he was only pitching in the ninth, I don't have a huge problem, especially because you're trying to use him more often during the course of the season. Occasionally, he'll pitch 2 days in a row. And if he's willing to go 4 outs or 5 outs, I take that. But if it's just three, too, I don't know if there's too many guys that are better than that.
Are teams too much, and maybe this is more of like a free agent question, are teams hemming and hawing too much with a guy like Hader? You can sit there and do the whole hem and haw with Blake Snell, with Jordan Montgomery. Is Jordan Montgomery more like a 3 or a 2? Blah, 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 blah. Cy Young, no Cy Young, all that stuff. Are they hemming and hawing too much with Hader?
Yeah, Eric, I think so. I mean, when he's used in just those 3 outs, there, I think if you're opposing GM, it's fair to wonder, is there something up? If he's not used on back-to-back days, which we know, wasn't always the case there. He's a max effort guy. You wonder, geez, is there something going on there? But once your medical team signs off on him and sees that there's nothing major going on there, then there's no reason why teams shouldn't be all over him. And I honestly think if you give him the contract, he'll pitch for you whenever you want him to. Like that part, the contract and the big numbers and all that, that's behind you, and it's all about winning and not worrying about necessarily the ninth. But we've seen times where Diaz with the Mets would come in the eighth, and I loved how Buck used him, and Diaz didn't give a shit. Like let's go, bring me in, I'll get the outs, and then if I can't go the ninth, you got some, David Robertson at one point, and Ottavino was there, and you had other guys that could finish out the ninth. But the heart of the order that, and really the game on the line in the eighth, sometimes that happens the way the order comes around. I want my best reliever in there, and so I think Hader would be for sure one of those guys that would do that in that type of situation. So, but I do think that in some cases, see when teams, there are certain teams that don't value the ninth inning as much. There are certain teams that look at guys that we can insert whoever and they're interchangeable. And I do think there are some teams that are being impacted by some of the finances, the RSN issue that's been going on. And I think all of that has kind of come together here, and I think that's why you're seeing some of the market being jammed up too.
I want to talk about you. You were an ex-GM before. You understand the ins and outs of signing people. I just feel like back in the day, and I'm thinking, 15, 20 years ago, free agents were going like hotcakes, you know what I mean? So
Right.
it just seems like why in these last couple of years, 5 years, whatever it has, I don't exactly know when it started. It seems like free agency is not fun anymore, and I was a
No.
part of it too as well. So, do you know why? Do you see the differences? Can you explain why, or is it just something that's just been going on?
So, Todd, I think it's been a difference. Maybe even the last probably 5 or 6 years, like you said. But if you go back even 15, um, there are more teams wanted to win or were trying to win, were being aggressive. So if you're trying to win or you think you have a chance at winning, like you had to be aggressive to go out and get who you wanted, right? And so what you're seeing now is, there's a less of a bar to get in, right? 84 wins, 85 wins, 86 wins. That can get you into the wild card these days, which is good, but it's also bad. It's bad I think, on the free agent market because some of those teams that are on the margins, they don't have to extend to go get that key guy. But I think there's a fear for some general managers. Well, if I spend this kind of money and it doesn't work out, I'm going to lose my job. There's a lot of factors that weigh into this, but that's a part of it too. So I think more than anything, um, I'd like to see more teams decide they're going for it and try to win. And I don't think we're there yet by any stretch.
Okay, so on that front, I'll mix in a fan question or two for you, Duke. From Jacob, do you think a salary cap slash floor would actually help teams with teams not trying to compete? Cap and floor question there. Like, or do you think, as we've seen often with our game, loopholes and BS would surface for teams to still kind of skirt through and be cheap and pocket money, the ones at the bottom that get all the revenue sharing?
Teams are always going to find a loophole, right? We saw even the Dodgers with the deferred money. I mean, that loophole's been there since I was in the front office, 15 years ago. And you could defer money and get the luxury tax benefits from it. Just no one was willing to kind of go to the extreme that the Dodgers did. I've always felt that I don't think we'll ever see a cap in our sport. Like you have to kind of go under the assumption that players would never go for it. In my mind, now that I'm in this position, I can see both sides. And if I were the players, I wouldn't want a cap either. But when I say that, I always say, well, maybe a floor would help with some of those teams. But I will say this: the way some of the changes in the recent CBA, like if you're going to tank, you can't be, you can't have a top 10 pick if you've stunk it up for after 2 straight years. I think that can help a little bit. I think giving teams the incentive to bring up players that are ready in the minor leagues instead of playing the service time game that they used to play, and they get a draft pick if those guys end up, one or two in the rookie of the year or the MVP, like things like that we can do as a sport to create more incentives for some of these smaller revenue teams. And if you want to dangle draft picks, they're draft pick whores. Like they want to go after. They'll take draft picks all day long because there's huge value for them. So if we want to we'll call it fix the problem or get them to spend a little bit more money, dangle a few prospects out there, and I think that'll solve it.
All right. So speaking of draft picks, speaking of free agents, this is super random free agent. I got to ask you because I have a special place in my heart for Gary Sanchez.
Yes.
Why, based on the season that Gary Sanchez had, from a rate status to just, an at-bat status, why is he not signed somewhere for a 2-year deal? In my opinion, somewhere a 2-year deal in the $18 million range. Is it the past where people are going to say, oh, his defense is no good because he had a 1.2 WAR just on defense last year alone, and Victor Caratini got a 2-year, $12 million deal?
Yeah. I do think there's a little bit of bias from the past with him and his defense, no question. I don't know if you got a chance to see him a lot, Eric, last year or not. I saw him in spurts in San Diego, and I was like, whoa, that's gotten a lot better. And I felt like he was being, you would know better than me on this, but sounded like he was being instructed in a lot of different ways. What he was used to, whether is he gonna catch with the knee down or not, like all those things that maybe he's comfortable with it, maybe he's not. I mean, he's a big guy anyway. and the mobility maybe wasn't there. But I was really impressed with the way he caught last year, and the power obviously was there too. So I'm a little surprised he's sitting out there, and he was sitting out there obviously this time last year. I was talking to one of his agents. Actually, it was about this time last year, and he was like, "Man, we're not getting a lot of interest out there." I would think there'd be a lot more interest right now. Having said all that, there's not a ton of teams right now that are looking at catching. I don't think. I'm trying to I feel like Tampa always is looking for catching. But I think that for him, it should absolutely be at least a 1 year major league deal, possibly two. I don't even know how old he is now these days, but yeah, he's a guy that's there's a lot of guys on the market that I'm still wondering why they're out there and don't have a job, and he's definitely one.
I was just going to repeat exactly what you said at the end there. Why there's guys still sitting there, and that goes back to what I asked you.
Yeah.
I want to go to a certain team. I want to go to the Yankees a little bit. Are they done? You think, or are they gonna keep on pushing here to get some guys? Are you happy with what they did? Should they go after more people?
See, I got asked this last night, Todd. I think they're right now third place team in the American League East, and that's not good enough for the Yankees, right? Now, if they add, a couple of reasons why I think that. First off, there's a lot more uncertainty with their starting rotation this year because of all the injuries and the guys who didn't give you, the two guys, Cortez and Rodon, I think had a total of 120 innings, right? And then Schmidt had the second most innings of any of their projected starters right now. We know Stroman, if he's healthy, but all these guys have that ... if healthy, they're going to pitch well. So I'm a little bit concerned there. So to protect yourself, they need a little bit more, I think, depth rotation wise, but they need bullpen help. Now they get a couple of these bullpen guys. Like I like the potential Neris, signing if they get him. I mean, I think Hader is the perfect fit there, but if they don't want to do that with Holmes in the back end, there's so many other guys that they could go after. I'd feel a lot better. I don't know about you guys. I like their offense better. Verdugo, as long as he's down lineup, obviously with Soto in there, he's gonna be a beast there. So I'm not as concerned about their offense. Sean Casey, I had him on my show recently. He's like, I think LeMahieu's going to have a bounce back year. I do too, just watching him. He looks like he's healthy now. So I think, we know Riz is going to be good, now that he's back through the concussion. So I think that offense is going to be a lot better than what we saw. Just have a little bit of concern there on the pitching side. And hopefully they'll go out and get a couple of relievers.
I got a fan question here from Javi. He says, how well do you think Yamamoto adjusts to the MLB scene?
Well, oh man, that's always a good question when you get a guy over from Japan because, as you guys know, there's always all sorts of adjustments. You get the ball, the travel, the mounds, new team. If you're going to have them pitch every fifth day or sixth day, I'm just going to go off of what we saw with Kodai Senga last year, right? I think that's the most current comp and barometer, not in size wise, but just pitching and making all those adjustments. And I think if you watch Senga, he came in early to spring training. He avoided the WBC, and he just learned his catchers, and the catchers learned him. He got accustomed to the ball. He got accustomed to all those things that you're looking at. And then as the season went on, he made in-season adjustments about as well as any first-year pitcher, whether it's Japan, rookie, whatever, that you're going to see. And I think as long as Yamamoto is open to doing that in season, I think the adjustment won't be that big of a deal. His stuff it looks filthy. You guys have had people on. I've seen we had Luis Brinson on who faced him. He said he's going to give teams a lot of trouble, a lot of headaches, and that's the type of stuff that he has. I wouldn't want to face. I don't think there's anyone that wants to face the guy, but I think it's going to be a quick learning curve for him. And if there is a struggle early, I don't think it's going to be long.
Todd wants to face him. That guy doesn't have anything that he doesn't throw enough balls that go far enough out of the zone. Todd would whack that dude. Absolutely whack Yamamoto.
I've been asked to come back and play by Murphy, so I mean, you never know.
Oh yeah.
Let's go. Get back in it.
Yeah, Todd's comfortable at home. That white sweatshirt wouldn't be as white anymore. I got to take you to the O's. Okay, yeah. Can the O's now? I'll say this first. I'll preface it. I love Bradish. I think Bradish has a chance
too.
to be a number one in this game, an all-star year in and year out. Can this team, the way it is built, and the fact that they are going to absolutely pinch their pennies and not spend at all, win a World Series without an ace, without a guy that's at least equal to Bradish?
So the great equalizer there is Grayson Rodriguez. The way they're currently constructed with their rotation, do they have a chance? Yes, but there's not a certainty that I would sit there and say, oh yeah, I want to push all my chips in on the Orioles to win the World Series. But like last year we saw Rodriguez really pitch well, right, in the second half, and I think if he takes that next step, he has a chance to be, if not Bradish, close. He certainly has the stuff to do it, and if Bradish is what he is, the guy that doesn't get as much attention as Means, because the guy was an all-star before he had Tommy John. He was healthy at the end of the year. He had a little hiccup in the postseason, but it didn't sound like it was serious. And so I think they have enough pitching to get there, and I would love to see at the deadline them be a little bit more aggressive than they've been. Last 2 years ago they were sellers. Unfortunately, this past year I thought they needed to be more aggressive, and they really weren't. So I do think that they have enough to have a similar type season. 100 wins is it feels like a once in a lifetime type of season. So I don't know if they can back that up again, but they definitely have the talent, and I think they have the starting rotation to win the division. But I think to get to the World Series, they're going to need another guy, and maybe that's trading for your prior guest if he's available at the deadline, and Corbin Burns. Maybe it's Dylan Cease. I don't know. Maybe it's Jesus Luzardo. Those are the guys that seem like, at least the last two, Luzardo and Cease, the ones that are available now. I just would love to see them, end up acquiring one of those guys. It just doesn't seem like they're going to be aggressive enough to go get one of them right now.
To me, it's the time to strike. To me, for them, it's the time to strike because they're young, because they are electric at so many spots. That would just solidify them. And all we've talked about so far on this show today is, well, if they can do this, this is a little bit of a bounce back. Pitching staff rotation-wise right now, because there's some concerns with the Dodgers. Buehler's coming off Tommy John, and Glasnow is never thrown over 120 innings. Yamamoto has never made more than 26 starts. What starting rotation right now can you say, wow, that is a starting rotation in the big leagues that does it for me?
Oh man, I don't have one that has a full five other than maybe Seattle that you feel really good about, right? Toronto, I'd say, has four. They just signed the Cuban pitcher there, Rodriguez. We don't know an awful lot about him, whether he's going to go in the rotation or not. I think Manoah's got. Personally, it sounds like Manoah has changed his workout routine this winter, so I would bet on him. I'm not going to bet a ton there, but I'm going to bet on him coming back. If he does, they might have five. But right now, I think you have to look at four because there's a little question on Kikuchi too, maybe. But those are the two that come to my mind. After that, who else has any depth, right? The Rangers in the second half, their rotation has a chance to be filthy, right? But as we know, there's hiccups there with guys coming back from any of their injury surgeries, and the physical therapy route can go wrong. So there's a lot of things there that could go wrong. But I like what they're in June or July beyond. I like what their rotation might look like too. But there's no one outside of Toronto and Seattle. I don't know. Is there a team that I'm missing that you guys thought of?
No, Seattle was the one that I thought of. I really like Seattle.
Yeah.
I'm speaking for Kratzy there. Thank you. I want to jump into the Cubbies a little bit. It felt like, man, when were they going to make a splash? And all of a sudden they did. And do you feel like they're done? Do you feel like they should keep going now after what they've done, picking up the pitcher from Japan?
It doesn't look like they're done, Todd, at least from what Jed Hoyer's talked about. When I was in the front office, and even some of the messages that you hear from the front office guys now, I hate the word measured. Don't be measured. Are we going for the postseason berth here or not? Like they didn't get to the postseason, and I thought they were measured last year, and that's what they've been so far this year. I don't. Hey, I don't know if Imanaga is going to replace Stroman. I mean, Stroman had a hell of a year. I know it was injury interrupted by injury, but his first half was, I don't know, he was an all-star, as you guys know. And they don't have Bellinger back, and they haven't replaced Bellinger unless you like. I mean, I don't know what you're going to get out of Michael Busch yet. So they said they're in the fourth or fifth inning of their winter. So I'm going to assume they're still, going to go out there and make improvements. I think they need a third baseman. They could use a first baseman maybe. Bello Bush might be the answer. They definitely need an upgrade. They need Bellinger back is really what they need. And then I think they need some bullpen too. So I don't know. They don't seem like they're on Hader, but I feel like that's a perfect fit. Like they're holding back, but I also feel like they're the one team that has the money that could be aggressive and are a dangerous team to watch in the next month because they might surprise us all and get some deals or bargains on the free agent market the way it's looking right now.
I got Reese Hoskins going there, but I have a GM question. I have a GM question for you that we always want all these GMs to speak. And then when they speak, what the heck? Why did that guy open his mouth? Should they talk? Should GMs talk more? Because he said fourth or fifth inning, and I made the joke yesterday, sarcastically. Yeah. What happens if there's a rainout? Maybe he didn't, right. Or the full throttle comments from the front office from the Red Sox. It's full, like FOOL, full throttle.
I tell you, the messaging this winter. I'll throw another one at you. You're in the largest market in the sport, and you're going to say we want to be competitive. Really? Really, New York Mets? You want to be competitive? No. That's not going to fly. Not with the money you're charging. Not with the expectations of your fan base. Like we got to come up with a better messaging campaign or whatever it might be for these GMs and front offices and even owners. Now, all of a sudden, the Mets, I don't know if you noticed this, they changed. Now they're like, we expect to be competitive and a postseason team. All right, I like it, David Stearns. You got it. You made the adjustment, which I love. But you can't tell me the Red Sox are full throttle, and now they come out and they're almost apologizing for it, like it was owner Tom Warner. So I know this: when we had these winter caravans, and if we had a terrible winter, man, I dreaded going to them because the fans were going to let you have it, right? And when the Red Sox go to Springfield for their winter caravan, that's where I grew up in Massachusetts, right? I was a Red Sox fan growing up, and they let you know if they think your team stinks. My cousin obviously was GM there for a long time. They just inducted him into the Hall of Fame, but they let him know, and sometimes they let me know. I had nothing to do with the Red Sox, and they let me know the Red Sox stink, and why aren't you doing better? So, I love the fan bases that put the pressure on the front offices and ownership to field competitive teams.
Are you surprised that fans buy into ownership's messaging and assume their teams can't afford, to get these players?
If they do, here's the thing: if you're, any of these large market clubs, you can't really, with a straight face, say that you can't afford these players. Like it's
every player's making money. You know how it is.
It's not believable. It's not. Obviously, even the overall team values, they continue to go up. I don't know if there's a team that's worth less than $1.5 billion now these days for all of them. So there's money there, but I do think that the only thing I'll defend owners on is I never, when I was with the Orioles, I never would ask my owner to spend out of his pocket, like to deficit spend, right? So the revenues, what the revenues are, what your expenses are. And if he's saying to me, listen, our revenues are, let's say, 150 million. I didn't ask him for 160. 150 should be plenty enough to field a competitive team. But some of these teams are bringing in all this revenue and they're not spending it on their team. Like that's kind of ridiculous. And I think the fan bases, some of them are starting to understand that or smart and be a little smarter about it and educated about it. But I wouldn't, on the surface, buy any of it. And I think the owners, they try to come out with this, message about where they are, like Bill DeWitt with the Cardinals. I think I give him credit for coming out and speaking. sometimes some of these owners, like we see John Henry in Boston, you can't find him. He hadn't spoken in 3 or 4 years. I think that's the absolute worst, especially for a rabid fan base like the Red Sox who show up when you win.
Do you, as a GM, are you privy to what the revenues are as a team? Like, so you have, would you say that's across the board, all 30 GMs, even the status of GMs now, you know what the revenues are?
Yeah, you should. Well, here's the thing: you should know. If you don't, you should ask. That's part of your job. Is to understand, the what's coming in, the revenues coming in, and the expenditures going out. Even if you're not necessarily privy to all of the details on the business side of, you should have an overall grasp and understanding of revenues and expenses. I mean, Alex Anthopoulos just got a 7-year deal, right? Now they're a publicly traded company. You can get this information, when the company releases, all of their information, their data. But he better know. And Andrew Friedman and David Stearns, all these guys are making huge money as a president of baseball operations. They should definitely know, and I think pretty much all of them know what the money, where they would be spending, what the spending is, and the deficits or revenue streams are. So I'd be very surprised. Listen, I think all of us know this right off the top. They're all getting $110 million from the national TV deal, right? Every one of them. So look at what the Orioles have, and their payroll was what, 85 million last year. So they're already putting that money in their pocket. You can guarantee it.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Duke, when I say look at some very basic math, and that we're not even factoring in, say, with Baltimore, how much they got from the ballpark, from the gate, from everything this past season, which was obviously a much better season for them than the previous 6 years of tanking, which is also why when Oakland, John Fisher has said, like, we're losing tons of money. No, you're not. We literally know what the freaking TV contract is, let alone, this is my follow-up question, things like the BAM deal years back where teams thought every ball club's going to spend whatever they got, $30 million or something. My other thing now that's the huge factor is most of these teams are becoming real estate entities. Let's buy this land or this restaurant, right? I'll use the Mariners as an example, and I'm going to maybe butcher it a little, but not too far off, right? Because Ryan Divish was on with us recently and said they got a chunk of land, restaurant. It's absolutely crushing. So they probably bought it, took a little loss from the team, then separated into another LLC and profited their asses off. So as an entity and as a whole, let's say that thing's making them a few $1 million or more a year. They don't factor that into the team. Now the team's just back in its separate space. So are GMs that tied in, or is it more just, hey, your budget's 150 this year. Don't worry about anything else. I got my side deals and pockets going on. That's probably what it is, right?
Yeah, some owners would share that information, right? Like, because here's the thing: you're having meetings with every department, oftentimes, and you're getting the state of the department, right? Well, their business guy's coming in. He's giving you the state of, okay, here's what ticket revenues are. Here's where we made money. Oh, by the way, the ballpark, outside of the ballpark, here in Wrigleyville in Chicago, as an example, or what they do in St. Louis, I forget what they call it. Here's what the revenues are. So you're aware of that. By the way, none of that is shareable in revenue sharing with any of the teams. That's all money that's going into their own pocket, right? So they invested in that, and we're supposed to buy that they invested in that, and it's a money losing proposition. Like, no, there's no way that they put money into those settings, into the real estate, into the restaurants, the bars, all of those things there, and to lose money. So, and by the way, that's why the Orioles here in Baltimore, they're trying to restructure their deal with the state to have an area around Camden Yards for that type of thing, like they have in the Battery there in Atlanta. So that's the next revenue stream that these owners are trying to accomplish. Steve Cohen's doing it with the Mets, not just with a casino, but just to try to all those chop shops where. I know, like, I have a door and a tire from my early days in the Mets that are still probably over in the chop shops across the street there. Like, there's no, like, those are going to be gone, and I can't wait. I'll be there with the bulldozer.
Hell yeah, dude. I grew up living that life, going around there, There's a lot of activity going on around there. But you're right. It is massive, massive business. And that is why they're in this game. They're not in this just because it's fun and it's cute and they want to win. It is incredibly profitable. So, dude, great to see you. You want to plug anything in particular? I know you got a lot going on. SNY, obviously, I'm listening to you all the time on Sirius in the mornings with Farron, who's been on here, and your boy Bowden, and you and him going off on Sundays. But
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
you got cooking?
Bowden, you guys had Bowden on. He goes, I love it. I love it when he starts singing the mediocre Mets song. That's new. That's new. I will say this: I'm doing some consulting for a showcase, Future Star Series showcase, and Jeremy Booth is a guy that people may not know yet, but he's coming on the scene. He owns the franchise, and I'm going to a junior college event down at Globe Life this weekend. So I'll plug them along with my Sirius XM show. So
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. All right, we'll check that out. We'll check out what it is and show the link and stuff like that. So enjoy that, dude. Have some fun down in Texas, and great to catch up with you as always, Duke. Really appreciate it,
Good
man.
to see you guys. Thanks for having me.